Today marks a brand new era here on Destination Pro Wrestling. I'm your boy Ango, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at AngoPW. This is the channel where I bring you guys the latest pro wrestling news, rumors, and all of that good stuff. So of course, if you guys want more, make sure you guys click that subscribe button, and I want to hear from you. So drop a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of today's news. According to multiple reports, it is being said that WWE is reportedly in talks with Daniel Cormier. The former UFC heavyweight champion has yet to sign on the dotted line, but of course, this is a long time coming. If you guys didn't know, back when WWE and Fox announced their TV deal, it was being said that Fox executives and WWE executives were very high on bringing the former champ to the company. Now look, let's just be honest. Daniel Cormier is a great UFC fighter. We know he's a lifelong WWE fan, and we know that he has the skills to be a commentator in the WWE. But if I'm going to be honest with you, there is something I want to see more than Daniel Cormier as a commentator, and that is simply this. Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Cormier. It has to happen. It hasn't happened in the UFC Octagon, and it hasn't happened in the WWE. And if it's not going to happen in the Octagon, I think it's fair to say that this is a matchup that needs to happen somewhere, some way, somehow. And it makes a lot of sense. If you guys didn't know, Brock Lesnar is currently not signed to a deal with WWE. It is being said that he will re-sign at some point, probably as things kind of close out with this pandemic. But of course, with Brock Lesnar not signing with the UFC and Daniel Cormier reportedly retiring from the UFC, it has to happen, and it might as well happen in a WWE ring. Now, of course, Daniel Cormier could be a very great asset to WWE as a commentator, but with his MMA and wrestling background, I think this is a matchup that you need to make happen. Now, let's just be honest, guys. Daniel Cormier competing in a WWE ring, it has a lot of potential to be very successful. But I gotta tell you, I don't have a lot of faith in WWE. We all saw what happened with Cain Velasquez, who is also a former champ in the UFC, and quite honestly, WWE dropped the ball very significantly. Now, there is a huge difference between DC and Cain Velasquez, but we don't really know Daniel Cormier's pro wrestling skill set. We at least knew what to expect from Cain Velasquez because of his experience in AAA, which was one of the big reasons why WWE even signed him. After 2 matches, he was released from the WWE, and quite honestly, it's been a forgotten run. So Daniel Cormier going to WWE could be a very, very big move, but of course, one has to wonder how WWE would play this off. We all know that Booker T is not necessarily a fan of DC right now. He's made some very, very strong comments about Daniel Cormier booking a storyline before even signing on the dotted line. And of course, DC and Ariel Helwani have jokingly answered back on social media. Now, here's the thing, guys. As a fan of MMA and WWE, this is a move that has to happen. Daniel Cormier needs to be in the WWE. I think he's going to bring a very nice sports-centric feel to the commentary booth. And quite honestly, WWE needs more eyes on the product now more than ever. The pandemic has definitely slowed down things when it comes to live television. But also at the same time, too, I don't know if Daniel Cormier is a guy that's going to be bringing a ton of eyes to the WWE product. If I had to guess, I would say a large percentage of pro wrestling fans also watch MMA. So I'm not sure how much this would actually help WWE in the sense of bringing viewership. But of course, from the mainstream appeal, I would say this is a very good move. Now look, here's the thing. With Brock Lesnar not going to the UFC anytime soon, Daniel Cormier has retired from the UFC, maybe returns to the company at some point. I think at this point, DC has to have 2 different roles in the company. And quite honestly, I think there's only one way to book it. I think Daniel Cormier needs to be booked as a commentator on SmackDown with Michael Cole. I think he needs to call the action every single week. Definitely use him for the pay-per-views, use him for the pre-shows and the panels and things like that. WWE needs to integrate Daniel Cormier as much as they do with Michael Cole and as much as they did with Renee Young. And I think the reason why WWE needs to do this is to get the WWE audience familiar with this guy. But of course, if you're the WWE, I think one thing that you absolutely have to do is book him into a match. And I think the best way to do that is by pairing him up with Brock Lesnar. Now, you guys already know his history with Brock Lesnar. After DC became world champion, Brock Lesnar went into the Octagon and confronted Daniel Cormier. He even shoved him, and of course, this drew a large reaction from the fans all around the world. Now, if this fight is not going to take place in a UFC octagon, WWE could at least book this at a main event level match on WrestleMania. And after several months of Daniel Cormier commentating for WWE SmackDown, I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is have him eventually cause some problems with Brock. Now, of course, Brock Lesnar's major value in the WWE is as a world champion. So at some point, Brock Lesnar may need to take the belt off of Roman Reigns or whoever is the Universal Champion at some point. But I think the best thing for WWE to do here is give Brock Lesnar the World Championship belt. In fact, I would have Brock Lesnar win the belt, defend it against Daniel Cormier at WrestleMania next year, have DC win the belt, give him a pretty good title reign. You know, of course, this is all going to matter based on how, his in-ring ability is. But if Daniel Cormier is the one to take the belt off Brock Lesnar, I think you could build a program that has Brock Lesnar win the belt back at SummerSlam. And then, of course, Daniel Cormier, if he doesn't want to wrestle anymore, he could go back to being a commentator for WWE. To me, this has money written all over it. And I got to be honest with you guys, Daniel Cormier is one of my favorite MMA fighters of all time. Of course, I would have loved to watch him compete against Jon Jones one more time because obviously all the drama that was there. But I think it just simply makes sense at this point. I think Daniel Cormier going to WWE as a commentator is not only best for WWE's product, but it's also best for Daniel Cormier as a commentator. Get some more experience. It's going to definitely help his brand. Pro wrestling fans will easily accept Daniel Cormier as a commentator because we all know his skill set is so good. Now, as a wrestler, that's going to take some time. So I think this allows WWE to have him as a commentator, have him in the facility at the Performance Center, have him train for a pro wrestling debut. And I think the idea of pairing him with Brock Lesnar makes a lot of sense. And quite honestly, there's a lot of guys in the WWE I would love to see wrestle Daniel Cormier, but I still want to see what Daniel Cormier could do in the ring first. He has a very nice athletic background as an MMA fighter and collegiate wrestler. So to me, I think the idea of bringing Daniel Cormier into the mix, it could be very cool. And quite honestly, I want to see Daniel Cormier kind of do what Ronda Rousey did. And I don't think that would be a problem whatsoever in this situation, so I'm all for it. But of course, if Daniel Cormier gets the Cain Velasquez treatment, I got to be honest with you guys, that's a huge no-go for me. And a lot of this is based on me fantasy booking, not so much me trusting WWE. Because quite honestly, WWE is kind of hard to trust when it comes to doing something new and something different. Sometimes I think WWE relies on old tactics that have worked for them in the past, and I'm not sure if that's going to be beneficial here with them bringing him in. Now, of course, I would love to see Daniel Cormier also on WWE Raw, especially with everything we're seeing with Raw Underground. I think it could make a lot of sense, but I don't believe WWE executives will be able to pull this off without Daniel Cormier going into SmackDown, obviously with Fox and of course their old relationships that they have. So me personally, I want to see what WWE can offer here. I'm all about it. Daniel Cormier possibly joining WWE. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.